Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the first episode. Actually, this is going to be the first episode we record of the year, but not the first episode we're going to release this year because we have the episode that we recorded last week or the week before. I can't remember because I forgot to release it. And yes, this is also going to be a really manic episode because, listeners, I am Paco Garcia, the host, co-host of the GMS magazine and So Play We All podcast, and I am really tired. And when I'm tired, my mind doesn't really work as a normal person's. It's just like I'm just gonna be an idiot. Hi, Chris.
Hey, this is Chris from Deus Ex Machina. Yes, it's been a very interesting season. Unfortunately, a flu spread through my circle and hit everybody like a freight train. And I'm just coming off of it now. My wife is a lot better, but unfortunately hit everyone. My in-laws got COVID, um, but they're doing better. COVID hit one of my closest friends who has MS, and because he's immunocompromised, it kicked the crap out of him. It was very touch and go. He almost lost him. I was very worried. But it's a new year, and starting off kind of crazy. At least in my circle, I'm an avid race car enthusiast, and a very well known a person in the industry passed away from a snowmobile accident just yesterday.
Oh, who's that? I didn't know that.
Guy named Ken Block. He is probably the most famous race car driver for millennials. Because he's heavy, an avid fan base. Like there are drivers that have won more than Ken Block. But Ken Block was an avid race car driver, invested and founded a company called DC Shoes, I think it's called, and used that money to fund his racing career, and he became very popular. Founded a club group called Hoonigan. So if you see a lot of tuners and racers driving around with Hoonigan stickers on their car, you know that they're part of that community. He was the center. He was the guru. His Gymkhana videos have hundreds of millions of views on YouTube. And to die at 55 from a snowmobile accident quite suddenly like that. And this happened on the same day where Jeremy Renner, the famous actor Jeremy Renner, gets run over by his own snowplow. And so I'm like, guys, winter, don't go outside. Just stay inside. It is clearly,
It's dangerous.
It is clearly, well, snowmobiles are dangerous on their own. ATVs and all that stuff is always dangerous. Race on good old fashioned dry roads. Be a street racer like a civilized human being. Don't go out in the snow.
Wouldn't it just be easier if they just played games instead? It would be way less dangerous. I don't know. I mean, I feel safer playing with
no one ever died by. Well, I don't know. There could be a report of somebody swallowing something in a board game, but very few people have died playing board games.
Correct.
And we won't go into the details of who anyone who's died playing role playing games.
Yeah, let's not. Let's not.
But anyway, we got a few things to talk about on this New Year's. It's the third day in. How are you?
Apart from being exhausted because my manager's come back to work, and I think she's absolutely brilliant and wonderful and amazing, and I really like her. Which for me to say that out for manager, it really takes quite something.
From you, that's high praise.
Very, very. But she's driving me absolutely potty because I'm designing a game for her. Well, for the company, no, not for her, for the company. I work in cybersecurity, and even though I am officially an instructional designer, I create e-learning courses based on cybersecurity for the awareness team. But because the design team has been moved on to marketing, I'm now doing marketing shit. So some of that is, she said, "Oh, Paco, you know about games?" Yeah, a thing or two.
Kind of, a little bit.
So why don't we make a game so we can give it away to our customers? And it's a game about cybersecurity. And I said, "You got the right man." So okay, this started last year, and I said, "Okay, we're going to do something very simple, just a card game, just to get our feet wet, and we'll take it from there." So I designed this game, which is incredibly easy, so easy. Well, you just have to put it, it's meant to be played by children of ages 5 and up. So any child who can count can play this game. And you're just meant to put the card down with a number. Everybody put this card at the same time, and the player with the lowest number loses, and that's it. You know, you
Pretty
take
straightforward.
you take the cards, but you can put 2 cards with the same number, or 3 cards with the same number, and the more cards you put, then the higher it is. So if you put 2 cards, then that's better than putting just 1 card. Done. Simple as that. So nothing fancy, nothing huge, just something that you can play in 5 minutes with your kids.
Nice.
A little bit more to it than that, but that's the gist of it. So we were playtesting it today, and she said, "Oh, but it's got something missing. It needs something else." I've brought a few games from home. Okay. So she starts to bring out these games that she plays with her kids all the time. And some of them are Spanish games. There's a game called Virus.
I know it.
And then there's a game called Mystery, which is a game about a cat. And this is actually a very funny game because you have a few cards and you're meant to make pairs. But the way that you make pairs is that you have to steal another player's card. So say that I have 5 cards, you have 5 cards, and then somebody else have 5 cards. So I take one of your cards, and if the card I have taken from you, makes a pair with one of the cards in my hand, I discard those 2 cards. And then the next player will steal a card from me. And if the card they take makes a pair with one of the cards they have, then that's fine. And if it doesn't, then they have one more card in their hand, which is not good. So it's quite simple. So games like that. And I said, I can't listen to something. Anyway, it so happens that she starts giving me ideas after idea, after idea, after idea, after idea, after idea, after idea. And I said, look, you're telling me to design Virus. The things that you're telling me, that's how Virus work.
Don't you love it when somebody comes up to you and asks you, "Hey, you should design a game," and they would like to have it like this, and this, and this, and you're like, "You've only played 2 games." It was one of the best critiques of a game company called Certifiable, which company that I've critiqued in the past. One of the best reviews for Certifiable Studios was, "This is a game company that saw Talisman, figured every game has to be like this, and that's the only game that they've been using as their reference." And I'm like, really? That's a scathing review by saying this game company saw Talisman and figured they knew everything about board game design.
Well, so that's what I've been dealing with all day. Eventually, she understood as well because she wanted me to have 2 games in 1 game. So if we wanted kids to play the game, then we would have the game I designed for kids. But inside the card, where the illustration is meant to go, we were meant to have different instructions so people could play with just those instructions. I said, but those are 2 different games in 1 game. That's going to be incredibly confusing even for adults. No. If you want to expand on the basic rules, by all means, do expand on the basic rules. But don't put a game inside the game, because that's like trying to play Uno and Yahtzee with the same dice. No.
Well, there's been some ideas of incorporating multiple mechanics in different games. I mean, we've seen games that are Ruins of Arnak, for example, is effectively 3 different games that have been meshed together. I mean, so there's some avenue
but you play one of those games so you can obtain something that playing the other game will allow you to do when you play the 3rd game. It's not as if you have 2 different games completely different that don't relate to each other at all and don't play together at all in the same box. It was a bit, no, stop it. This is too much. So eventually we settled down, okay, let me revisit this. And I included the mechanics from Virus that she wanted. Which is she wanted, I want the color bit. I want to have something because it misses something else. So what are we going to do with color? And so, okay, don't worry about it. So now we've got a card game where people have to put together the initial player is going to put together a means to attack and a cyber attack. So, for example, if you have a laptop in your hand and you have a phishing, you can throw a phishing attack. If you have a mobile phone and you have a vishing, then you can throw a vishing attack. And the combined value of both cards, that's the value of the attack. Does that make sense?
Right.
You're looking very confused.
No, I'm following it. I have to learn, because even though I know virus and I've seen virus, I've actually never played virus.
Well, this has nothing to do with virus now.
Okay.
That's it. No, we decided we know. But she said, but will we get into trouble if we just copy a game and give it a different theme? I said, well,
Right.
not really. I mean, you cannot copyright mechanics, but I'd rather not go out there and have anyone telling me that we've just, copied the game and changed the graphics and the names. I think that would be really bad. And for goodness sake, I'm a game designer. What is the fucking point of me?
That being said, I mean, just on a complete side thing, a board game about cybersecurity is ingenious.
There's a company called Potato Pirates in India who specifically make games about cybersecurity, and they are very, very good.
I haven't seen any high profile ones. I haven't seen
No, there are some, not very many. There are some. So anyway, eventually I managed. And you know what she came up with later on? She came back about 5 minutes later and said, "Oh, look, I like this game. I want this game. I want a dexterity game. I want Geisted Leads." I said, "What? Yeah, why don't we make a game where people have to take a card out and they have to find the element that's not in the card because that's the attack, and then they need to grab the figure that they're going to defend themselves from the attack with." Fine, I can do that. I can work with that. And they say, "Oh, and we need it delivered in our offices by the 15th of March."
Oh, okay. That's it.
I said, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You want me to design a game, play test it, illustrate it, and then send it to a company that has to manufacture 500 copies in 2.5 months? Allow me to assure you, that's not going to happen.
Well, considering like the last board game I designed was a year and a half of,
admittedly, we're not going to need to go to China or anything because it's not a very large print run. But I said, she said, "Oh, no. We've done things faster for some of our events." I said, "Yeah, you never had to rely on a company being able to accommodate the production schedule that you're giving them. This is something completely different. You cannot have a company manufacturing 500 copies of a game in 10 days.
Yeah, I had that situation when I was trying to sell the wineries on Naramata. It was November. It was August, and they're like, "Oh, well, this game may be out by December," and I'm like, "I haven't designed it yet. It'll be lucky if it comes out in December of next year."
So eventually, I just said, "Look, I'm going to ask for some quotations. And if we can get this game done by March, then we'll get your minis and figurines done by March. If we cannot, then we go for the card one, and then we'll get the other one done by the end of the year when we have a few events that our customers would very much appreciate."
Right.
So, okay, I'm sure you can make it. I'm sure I fucking can't. So anyway, that's been my day. That's why I have a headache and I am absolutely exhausted. People, the life of a corporate game designer is shit. But I love it. I'm having a great time, I have to say. So I'm absolutely loving it. It's absolutely wonderful to have the ideas exchange with people and being able to play, and some people like it, and having the graphic designer and the illustrator say, "Oh, but we could do this, and then we can do that, and then I can do this other thing." And just thinking like, "Oh my God, you're so young. I love you." Because she's 23 and just finishing finals, and it's amazing. So that's That's how the year has started for me.
Well, okay. Which is interesting. This is one of the issues with Facebook. Facebook has a memories thing, and reminded me that I got dumped 9 years ago today.
Oh wow!
Um,
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah, a relationship which I thought was going to be the first relationship I had of any substance, and then I got dumped 9 years ago today. Now that being said, it's not a downer because obviously
You're better
I
off.
met someone I got better. I got someone up a few months later. And the other irony is, not irony, but the interesting aspect is that her and I have reconnected, and we've kind of looked over our past, and we both realized that there was it was a bit of a communication issue where we weren't communicating
Mhm.
some of our issues. And now when we look at it going, if we had spoken about some of our issues, we could have gotten over that hump really easy. So this is one of those situations where, in retrospect, I'm talking to her. I realized even though she's the one who broke up with me, I can tell that she's like, oh, I probably should have not given up on this. I'm like, well, I'm married now, so not much we can do.
No.
But it's interesting too, just because of other recent developments. But it's just a very interesting thing. But yeah, that was one thing I noted today. But the important thing about the stuff is talking about board games and not my personal life. Uh,
Okay,
so
so let's talk about board games. What do you get for Christmas?
well, I actually wanted to hold that up for later if I could, and just talk about some recent news. Do the news thing first.
Let's do the new thing.
Just because I think because my board games are right behind me, including a little bit of a surprise. But so, ding, 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 a little bit of news thing. On the board game front, there hasn't been too much. This is usually the dead zone for games on Kickstarter. We have Arkham Asylum, Escape from Arkham Asylum coming up on Kickstarter, and a few other things. However, the one thing I thought was really interesting actually happened on Christmas, and this is something that's not going to be really well known to a lot of people. But in Canada, there's a store called Calendar Club. Now, I don't know if you guys have this over in Spain, but we have things called pop-up stores. They only appear for a season. In States, they have the same. They have a Halloween store that opens up in September, closes November 1st. They're only open for Halloween. And then during Christmas time, there are numerous stores. Anytime that there's an empty lot in a mall, that spot's going to get filled. Hickory Farms, which is a gift giving mostly in cheeses and meats. They'll do seasonal. They start up usually mid-October and they run all the way to December. And then January 1st, they close up shop and they're done for the year. Calendar Club is an obvious one. They sell calendars, which, as you might imagine, is not a huge seller in March or April. So they open up around the same time, mid-September, and then they run all the way. So they sell gifts, but 80% of their line are the new calendars of the year. It's a very interesting business model. That Calendar Club that sells calendars. They blow all their money, and then they spend the next 8 months making stock for the final 3 months of the year. But they also are gift giving, so they also feature a lot of novelties, and board games are starting to occupy their space more and more. Mostly party games.
Okay.
So if there's a party game, regardless of vulgarity, it's going to be on Calendar Club shelves. I ran a Calendar Club before I got into game design and game writing full time. I quit my retail job and took a management position of Calendar Club, knowing it was temporary, because in Canada you can accept EI, employment insurance, which is which is a government paid offset. If you're laid off, if you're fired or you quit, you don't get EI. But if you're laid off because of work shortage, you can collect EI. And because Calendar Club is a temporary job, once they let you go, your class is being laid off, so I can collect EI. So I was able to collect EI for 6 months and develop my industry. So when EI ran out, I could start my Kickstarter, and the rest was history.
Nice.
So I'm very thankful for Calendar Club for that opportunity. However, this is where things get interesting. When Calendar Club ends their Christmas rush, they have to pack up most of their stock and sell it off. Now, shipping is expensive, so it's actually easier and better for them to sell things off cheap. So they'll have insane Boxing Day sales when everything in their store is like anywhere from 25 to 45, 55, 65% off. And then at the end, they'll finally box everything that hasn't been sold and they'll send it off. And because these are calendars, most of the calendars just get destroyed. That's why they want to get rid of these calendars as soon as possible. Some of the games, especially the heavier, larger ones, it's like get rid of them. Now, strangely enough, most of the board games, because board games can be resold next year, they don't really drop them that much, 25, 50% sometimes.
That's not bad, actually.
But they did something this year which everybody was talking about. And they realized, like, does Calendar Club know what they've done? Because it's one thing to say, oh, we're going to sell off our extra copies of Trivial Pursuit or Clue, because the vast majority of their games are like that. Games that you see everywhere, games you see in record stores, like variations of Clue and Risk and Monopoly, or the really well-known games like Catan and Ticket to Ride. That's what you'll see. But for some weird reason, Calendar Club got a massive supply of Arc Nova, which is considered the greatest game that came out in a lot of circles, the best game that came out in 2022.
What?
It is not in the same scale of any of the other games out there. It's not Ticket to Ride. It's not this public game. It is a sought-after, extremely popular game that came out in 2022, a game that had a supply shortage. It was the wingspan of 2022. And Calendar Club actually had a huge supply. They, of course, were selling it for a significant markup, so you could get it for cheaper by going online. So back Boxing Day hits, for those people who know after Christmas in Canada and Britain, a few other places, you have Boxing Day, which has turned into our Black Friday is Boxing Day. But of course, in Canada now we have that as well. So we have Black Friday and Boxing Day. And on Boxing Day, Calendar Club decided to reduce Arc Nova to $10.
Oh my God, that must have been a marabunta of people going to that website to destroy everything.
You couldn't buy it online. You had to go physically to a Calendar Club. So if your town had a pop-up Calendar Club, you could go. And so people started popping up and they started seeing price tags. It's like, I got Arc Nova for $10. And everyone's like, what? And people were popping up like, I bought 6 of them for $10. And everyone's like, they were calling them scalpers, being unethical because this guy's going to try to resell it now for $50. So I was like, wait a second, what is this? And they were saying this is in Canada. And I'm like, and then I go, where in Canada is this being sold? And somebody said it was a pop-up. And I thought, there's only one pop-up I know that sells games. That's Calendar Club. Honey, get in the car. So we got in the car. We drove to the local mall where the Calendar Club, the same Calendar Club that I ran 2 years earlier. And I went in there, and there it was, 4 copies of Arc Nova for $10.
You bought them all, I hope.
I did not, because I have some ethics. I'm not a person that has any plans on reselling them. I own Arc Nova, but I do have friends. So I bought 2 copies of Arc Nova. They're wrapped up as gifts to gift to friends. So, and I told people, by the way, there's 2 more left. Go at them. I'm not a person that has any plans on reselling. I have no desire to do that. Yeah, I could have bought all 4 of them. But no, I bought 2 of them for $10 each. They're wrapped up for gifts. But yeah, that was everywhere on board game sites saying, go to Calendar Club and pick up Arc Nova, because for some reason they've dropped it to $10. They also dropped Trivial Pursuit to $5 as well.
Next time, let me know, because you know what? I would have been delighted to pay for those $20 and then the postage so we could do a giveaway.
Oh yeah, that would have been that could have been smart. Yeah,
that would have made it very popular as well. So next time you do that, just let me know right away, and believe you me,
like I said, it was on the moment we're like, do we get one? Okay, we're getting one. Do we get 2? And we're calling friends like, do you want a copy? Do you want?
I would have got all of them. I'm sure I can think of 4 people who would be more than happy to receive that as gifts.
Yeah. There's a part of me that was just like, why didn't you get it? And I was like, you know what? Let some other people take advantage of it and get it for $10. Sure, they may just want to resell it, but I'm sure it might end up going to a good home. So I was kind of thinking more altruistically. But no, in retrospect, I should have.
Maybe they ended up in the house of somebody who's going to sell them for $30.
Yes. On another topic, so Evil Genius Games. So Evil Genius Games is a company that released now, just for context, D&D came out, 5th edition came out, I think in 2016, or 2016, 2015, and Their OGL came out around the same, or not long after, and there wasn't. It was straight fantasy third party stuff, and one of the very first non fantasy work out there was mine, 5th edition for Amethyst, which is a sci-fi fantasy. I then released Ultra Modern in August of that same year, and that became the most successful third-party game for 5th edition, and it's still considered one of the most successful books for 5th edition. There are 2 versions, the regular and the expanded redo, and they're both mithril sellers, which is the irony that if you add those together, I would have an adamantine title, but I don't, because they're both still, unfortunately, quite a ways away from either of them being an adamantine title. But now, since then, the last few years, there's been a slew of non-fantasy games. A slew. I got a whole cornucopia. Black Carbon, where it was called. There's that's been a big cyberpunk one. Geopunk. No, bio is a. It's a geo. It's a genetic. It's a biopunk game. That's also gotten really, really popular. Carbon 2185. That's the name. Carbon 2185. Nice yeah, it's one. Like I said, and this is the irony, is that I had a cyberpunk game with Neurospasta that came out well before a lot of these companies came out. So it's one of those situations where it's interesting seeing them all playing catch up. But Everyday Heroes is the official 5th edition. Oh, not the official, but it is the update of the original 3rd edition D20 Modern. This was a direct, faithful adaptation of the original D20 Modern book. Raised about $400,000 on Kickstarter, so it's very admirable. The issue I saw with it is the worry that they were going to adapt everything. And looks like in some ways I was correct, in the ways that the original one, all the classes were peaked at 10th level. So the only way to ever maximize your character was to multi-class, right? So you had to start off as a strong hero, a dexterous hero, and these were very lame characters. Like, you wouldn't want to start first level in D20 Modern because the characters were so simplistic and weak. You only got really good once you got to your prestige classes at around 3rd level, and then of course you would pick levels in either your basic class or your prestige class until you got to 20th level. Okay. It was a very controversial decision because you basically would have to start the game at 3rd level. You can never start a D20 game at 1st level because you were worthless. Okay. They have copied that tactic over. So although it has gotten a lot of good reviews, there has been some criticism from fans that find the system not very good because they can't take one class and run it all the way to 20th level. However, they have taken things that I know was unpopular, like their wealth skill, and they've taken that out. The D20 Modern had a wealth skill, which was an awful idea. Like, you would literally, can I afford this? I roll a die and go, yes, I can afford it. It's like, so I can afford a car and then I can't afford food. It was a ridiculous mechanic. Okay. So that never made any sense. So that came out just a few weeks ago. It's at silver, so it's doing pretty well. It's also a very big book, 461 pages. They also were very not controversial, very well known because they had purchased the IP of a half a dozen movie properties from the 80s and 90s, including The Crow.
Yeah, Highlander, Pacific Rim, Rambo.
Yep. And those are all adventures that they have put out.
Wait a second. Let me go through them because they have some interesting shit here. So we have, you can already buy The Crow and Escape from New York.
Yep.
And then they're going to come out with Pacific Rim, Kong Skull Island, Highlander, Universal Soldier, Total Recall, and Rambo this year. That's what they want to release this year up to July, so they may come with more things. Now, I have to say, some of this stuff I would find very, very interesting, but the fact that this is going to go for the D20 Modern as you are describing it, and that game has 400 pages right away, is a bit of a, yeah, not going to happen.
Well, like I said, it's a lot of people who backed it because of these IPs that they have. They weren't making an official Crow 5e game. They were making 8 different official games. And also, so of course, my brain goes, how there is no, as they made $400,000, and so my brain is going. Unlike my company, I always reminded of my friend who runs Games, and Games has $1 million Kickstarters, but they don't make a whole lot of money. They might have actually gone under, but the reason why they survive is because they have a high roller, a high roller person that backs their play. A millionaire. They have a million. They have the person who owns the parent company is a person that can easily front money to handle costs for projects. Evil Genius Games must have them because securing the franchise rights to 8 different properties, some of them not being small, could not have been cheap. In fact, they were probably so expensive. When you calculate everything, $400,000, they probably still lost money on that Kickstarter.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine, and the things are they're very long wanted franchises, but I can imagine some of them. I don't think they can be that expensive because they're pretty old.
Yeah, Highlander and the Crow, but the thing is, Crow's getting rebooted. Highlander, yeah, but Pacific Rim,
exactly that one.
that could not have been cheap.
And I'm going to even say that perhaps even Rambo cannot be that cheap either. Escape from New York, yeah. Universal Soldier, who even remembers that film?
I do.
It's appalling. Kong. The thing is that
Kong. The thing is that gets me is that I'm trying to see whether or not, and I thought whether or not those are all owned by a same parent company, that they could throw a lump sum and got the publishing rights to all of them, because it would seem incredibly expensive. It's also a very random assortment of titles. So my guess is that they approached Universal or a parent company that owned all of those. My guess is also potential that Evil Geniuses Games parent company might be associated with that company in question. So we may not know it. The irony of the whole situation is that I got contacted. I told you about that. That's why you're smiling. I got contacted by Dave Scott, I think his name is, from Evil Genius Games. And it was very much a boilerplate going, hey, I saw that you published some successful non-fantasy games. Would you consider adapting those titles to our system? And he talked about stuff about being able to promote it, and even if the game is popular, publishing it and putting it in game stores. And it didn't mention my title specifically, so it felt like a copy-paste boilerplate response. Not sure whether or not it was his intention to make it generic and whether or not he did, in fact, type it specifically for me. And I had to respond going, cool, thanks. My docket is full, considering I'm the guy who publishes your direct competition. Like, it would not make a lot of sense to adapt Ultramodern to Everyday Heroes, considering they have 80% carryover of the same stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that in the when EndWorld interviewed them for their Kickstarter, the very first question the interview asked said, how do you differentiate yourself from other non-fantasy games on the market, like Ultramodern and Carbon 2185? And so like literally the first thing, the question they had was like, you're making a universal system. How do you compare it to the other universal system that has been out by this point for 4 years and has 2 mithril badge selling titles on the market? So the fact that they say, hey, you should write for us. And my response is, I was like, I appreciate the comment, but why?
I
Why would I now write for my own system that has actually sold more?
But also the thing I'm thinking about it as a company is a bit. You have in there 8 IPs. Why would you want to do anything else?
They want to expand that profile. They're trying to do what 3.5 did, was to try to. They're trying to do market saturation. If they could throw out 30 products in a year that use Everyday Heroes, then everyone thinks that is now the official umbrella for all 5th edition non-fantasy. Like, they're trying to create that system. That's why they're putting out all these modules this year and trying to encourage other people to adapt to because they're ultimately trying to be the Osborne, the complete. So, like I said, they're trying to create a situation where Ultramodern, my title, becomes inconsequential because Everyday Heroes will be the definitive universal non-fantasy rules. And the funny thing is, they're saying that that they're putting out an OGL. There's an OGL for Ultramodern 5 that's been out for 5 years. Ultramodern 5 OGL has been downloaded 4,000 times. I have that system out. People can copy paste Ultramodern and make their own system with it. They don't have to pay or give me permission to do anything. So I'm even giving out my stuff for free, and I still, of course, I sell the books all the time. So it's just a very interesting thing. I was suspecting going, I have a Kickstarter I'm running right now for Amethyst. It is a colossal pain to adapt anything to a rule system. I know because Amethyst was adapted to 4th edition, 5th edition, Pathfinder, Savage World, Fate, and each time I did it, it was a colossal pain because I can't keep two systems in my head at the same time. I have to unlearn one. So even though I wrote 13th Age, I actually still don't know how to play it. I would actually have to grab the book, reread the rules to adapt it, which is the reason why I said when I did the new Amethyst one, I'm not doing a Pathfinder. I'm doing the 5th edition version only.
You are a Vancian player or a Vancian DM.
I can't.
You have to forget something to remember something else. You're like a
D&D
spell.
Board games I can do easily. I can pick up a game and go in. If I play a board game once, I will forget the rules. I play a board game twice, I'll remember it. 3 times, it'll be perfect. If I was to write for Pathfinder, but the Pathfinder is the worst because Pathfinder and 5th edition have so much carryover. I'd have to relearn. Oh, wait. This is not like when I was doing 4th edition, adapting to 5th edition. I kept on mentioning, oh, this is a free action. And I had to tell myself, oh, right, crap, there's no such thing as a free action in 5th edition. That's a 3rd edition, 4th edition artifact. 5th edition doesn't have free actions. So when I re-updated Ultramodern for redo, I had to go there and specifically remove instances of free actions and reword it by saying it's free because there's certain wordings that do change. 4th edition was very well known for having a lot of established iconography and the terminology. Like 5th edition's conditions is 2 pages. Pathfinder's conditions is 4 pages.
Okay, that's a lot.
So there's a lot more terminology to remember. Pathfinder also has the most insane monster creation system. Writing for Pathfinder is a colossal pain. When someone said, "Are you writing for 2nd edition Pathfinder?" I said, "Why should I bother? It has a 1% market share. I have no interest in doing that."
Yeah, it's a shame that they haven't done better, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But, so that's been the interesting thing with Everyday Heroes. Yeah, that's the thing with Everyday Heroes, which I thought was very interesting. The other thing I also find, this is completely off the side, but when you put stuff on Drive-Thru-RPG, you can list what your title is related to, what class is it under, and so forth, what category. And for some reason, which is not 100% sure why they did this, it's set under Dungeons and Dragons OGL.
Okay.
Now that seems normal. I'm under D&D OGL, but I am also under D&D 5th edition OGL. They're not. Even though Everyday Heroes is a 5th edition game, if you go to D&D, I'm in the top 50. They're in the top 50. They're in the top 10 because they just came out 2 weeks ago. I'm like number 25 because I've been out for 2.5 years. If you go to D&D OGL, they're on the list, and I'm on the list. You go to 5th edition D&D OGL, I'm on the list, and they're off.
That doesn't make any sense. I mean, if they are 5e, how can they not be in the OGL?
Because when they entered it in their system, they didn't bother flagging it as a 5th edition book.
Yes.
So if you go to the hottest 5e compatible books,
they're never going to be there.
They're not going to be there. You have the Hellboy 5th edition game, the Dark Souls 5e game. I'm there under 12. Carbon 2185 is there under 15. Their title is not listed. And that is, unfortunately, I hate to see, it's a massive misstep for them. Like, why didn't they put themselves under that? That actually might be one of the reasons why maybe their sales aren't as hot as they probably think there are.
If they do now, that means they have listened to this podcast. Hi, guys.
The other thing, of course, is that they have created their own entry. So they now have their own Everyday Heroes rule system. And I think that's the reason why. That instead of saying, oh, we're part of 5th edition OGL, no, we're part of the Everyday Heroes rule set. They're trying to create a situation where even though they're 5th edition compatible, they are their own rule system.
all of this
which is ballsy on their part
yeah.
for them to say that they're not 5th edition compatible. They're a completely original rule system that just happens to use a 5th edition architecture.
You know what this is starting to smell like to me? One of these, I'm going to spend a huge fortune to make a small fortune situation. It's just beginning to feel a bit. You are spending a lot of money on these franchises, and giving people, because I heard from them in a Facebook group recently in which they were advertising that if you became a partner and you sell any of their games are sold through a link that they give you, they would give you a 20% cut, a commission on anything that you sell through your website, your podcast, or your whatever, which is like ginormously generous. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything as generous as that. I was thinking, how are you going to make money? I mean, seriously.
Because they're dumping money into the situation to try to overwhelm the industry.
Exactly. But again, I don't think, I would be very surprised if there is enough people to saturate the market to make back the amount of money that they are investing in making this happen.
Yeah, it reminds me of that Alpha Omega game. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Yeah, Alpha Omega came out. It unethically tried to link themselves to a movie property, which they were in no way connected to, but they tried to lie. It was an extremely expensive game. It was one of the most amazing looking game productions. And unfortunately, it came out and then got vanished. No one talks about Alpha Omega anymore. But if you were to see the original rule books, some of the greatest looking rule books of all time, it is amazing, the production design of that game.
Oh, yes, I do have these. Oh, yeah, I have, and I have the bestiary, which is absolutely incredibly beautiful, I have to say.
Well, yeah. The thing that I'm starting to figure out now, because I was talking to my own group, my own Discord about this, and they're asking the difference. I was asking the differences between Ultramodern and Everyday Heroes, because I haven't read Everyday Heroes. And they're saying Everyday Heroes is a more faithful adaptation of D20 Modern, all the good stuff and the bad. But then looking at the fact that they have made a point to not make themselves part of 5th edition compatible, it makes me wonder if it is in fact 5th edition compatible. Because you can use 5th edition architecture, copy paste the rules, but create enough new architecture to the system where it no longer becomes compatible with fantasy D&D. Ultramodern 5 is 100% compatible with D&D. You could take Ultramodern rules, plunk it into your fantasy game, and nothing changes. Maybe you can't do that for Everyday Heroes. Maybe Everyday Heroes requires. And I have heard, of course, I remember D20 Modern having this part of this problem. D20 Modern characters were way underpowered compared to their fantasy counterparts. So they were only compatible with themselves. Okay. And they had a section at the end saying, oh, in case you want to try this with your own fantasy game, here are the things you have to change to make this game compatible with D&D. So they knew going into it that their system wasn't going to be compatible with D&D. I did with Ultramodern. So I'm starting to think that if they made this a faithful adaptation, that it is entirely possible that Everyday Heroes is not directly compatible with core fantasy D&D, which would be an interesting decision to do that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I don't think I'm ever going to find out, because I would be very surprised if Everyday Hero started to be published in Spanish, or the book in English reached my local store. And if it did, if I would really want to spend the money to buy it so I could not read it, because I don't think I'm going to be reading a 400 pages book again, unless it's one of the books that I've been given for Christmas, which I will be reading, because it's just too much, absolutely too much. So, and for a system, I mean, unless, these Everyday Heroes is going to come with a proper game already, I'm not going to read 400 pages of rules to then have to read however large the Pacific Rim book is going to be, or the Highlander, regardless of how interested I could be in those settings, which I would be very interested in the Crow, Highlander, Pacific Rim, and Total Recall, if it wasn't because I am never going to get it to the table, because I am never going to read Everyday Heroes. So yeah, this is not for me. It's never going to be. So I have no idea what's going to happen to this. But considering their practices, I think it's a company that we should keep an eye on.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see where they are in a year.
Yeah, I think they are either going to, as you say, they're going to really do very well and get established and get enough of a fan base and customer base to survive and make money, or is just going to disappear and every one of these books will become a collector's edition.
This is an Icarus situation.
Yeah.
They're either going to soar or they're going to fly too close to the sun.
Yeah.
So anyway, talking about Christmas before we run out of time, I'll go through what I got for Christmas here. The first here is Wingspan,
nice.
Oceanic expansion. We already have the European expansion.
Yeah.
My wife's all-time favorite game, Caverna. She finally got an expansion for Caverna because God knows that game wasn't big enough as it was. We got this game called Starlink, which is, I guess,
that's so good! Oh my God, I wanted that game so badly when I saw it in Essen.
Yes. However, it only
I'm jealous. I'm
so jealous. So we have to make sure we actually have friends over. The other thing I found was interesting, Boxing Day sales in Canada. So You've Been Eaten was 50% off. Anyway.
Oh, right. Okay. That's a fun game.
Potion Explosion, second edition.
Brilliant. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Paleo.
Yeah, I've heard about that game. I've never played it or seen it around me.
And finally, the game my wife wanted more than anything, Slaying which only got released this year. But
I'm so jealous with Starlink because that game is so goddamn cute and lovely.
I have here a box.
I can see because, yes.
That has not been opened.
Okay.
So I'm going to do an unboxing for games that my wife has ordered.
And you don't know what it is.
And I'm going to find out what she spent money on. So we're going to open this puppy up.
Yes.
And as expected, she bought the Isle of Cats Explore and Draw.
I can't see anything because of the chroma keying.
There you
go. Okay.
Of course, she would get this game because she loves Isle of Cats.
Okay, I haven't played that.
Oh God, she picked up Unlock. For Star Wars. Now, just last episode, I mentioned how Unlock was my least favorite escape room game.
Yeah.
But the Star Wars one, I am going to be very curious about. This is Rebels, Escape from Hoth, Smugglers, break out of an Imperial Star Destroyer, or Imperial agents recover kyber crystals from the ancient moon Jeddah. And finally, what is clearly the heaviest game in here.
Oh, that is very good. Dragon Castle is amazing.
Yes.
Oh, wait a second, because my dog has just fucked up this.
It's a very famous, not famous, but well-known game because it is a retelling of the game.
Can I still hear you? I don't know. No, I cannot. Let me give me a minute because Taiko has just jumped. Okay, I can hear you again now. On me and disconnected my headphones. Dragon Castle is an absolutely brilliant game. If you want to learn how to play it, there is an app. And the app will teach you how to play the game in about 5 minutes. And it is a very good game in and on itself. And it is a very accessible, very, very fun version of Mahjong.
Is it Mahjong or Mahjong?
I say Mahjong.
Mahjong, that's what I thought, Mahjong.
But I don't know, I'm Spanish, so what the fuck do I know? But it is an absolutely brilliant. I love Dragon Castle. It's a fantastic game. Horrible games make everything but.
But yes, that's what we got.
So Santa, I mean, you must have been a very good boy this year too.
No, in fact, I've been a very naughty boy. But
so can
I
you
think
imagine?
that's the reason why my wife bought more games.
Probably. No, you've been very naughty as well. Yeah, more games. Okay.
So that was my Christmas. We've unboxed all of these, so I imagine we'll be unboxing those tonight.
Well, I got both some presents and both not. Well, everything was, I'm going to say it was a present, but for different reasons. Because I got my sisters-in-law bought me something called the Blunder, which is the Blunder is a protocol puzzle post, and literally is escape room that comes in an envelope. So every month is a
Oh.
subscription thing, and every month you get an envelope, and it's for 1 to 8 players. It's 14 ages or higher, and it plays in about an hour to an hour and a half. And as soon as you open the box, I still haven't opened mine, or the envelope, I should say, inside this escape room. So you get a few puzzles and some QR codes that you have to scan to solve them together and play the game. And it is a subscription service. It's a monthly thing, which is really cool. I didn't know that existed until I got it.
I have heard of this, yeah.
So my husband, Santa, I beg your pardon, brought me several role-playing games, all of them, funnily enough, exactly the ones I wanted.
It's almost like Santa knows, huh?
It's incredible. So he got me The Expanse, Green Ronin's science fiction soap opera that plays with the H system, which I was very much looking forward to having because it's very difficult to get it in Spain. I also got Coyote and Crow, which I am desperate to get to because I know Connor Alexander is an absolutely wonderful human being. Coyote and Crow has received some fantastic reviews. And do you know anything about the game?
No, not personally.
Okay, the setting is what would the Americas, or what we know today as the Americas, have been if Christopher Columbus had not, in brackets, discovered it, and the original nations have been allowed to develop naturally.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I've seen this exact thing, but I have seen what ifs like that.
So this one is actually one of those 400 pages books that I'm really looking forward to reading, because they have done all the layout for people like me with dyslexia who cannot usually read small font, and this font is huge with plenty of space all over the place so the fonts can breathe and you can read it beautifully with gorgeous illustrations. It's been really well thought out for accessibility, and as I said, Kana is an absolutely wonderful human being who deserves all the love in the world for making the book this way. I also got Altered Carbon, the role-playing game, which I thought the series was all right, but a little bit wasted. Hopefully the role-playing game, because it's from Renegade Studios, and Renegade are very good. I mean, they're absolutely fantastic studio. I think they should do very, very well with this game. So I'm looking forward to taking a look at it. And then I got an air fryer, which has absolutely nothing to do with gaming, but I am so excited about it because I love cooking. So those are my Christmas presents. But from Hong Kong, well, actually, before that, from Israel, I got a game that has been sent to me for review called Zaberias, which is like a dungeon crawler for kids. So they can learn, reading and basic math skills playing this game. I haven't opened it yet because I need to do the unboxing, but it looks super cute. So that should be very interesting. And from Hong Kong, Ice Makes Games has sent me for review Terrascape, which is huge box. Loads of things inside. Another game called Age of Civilization, which is a tiny little game, like a matchbox almost, that plays in 30 minutes, and it's a civilization game. And believe you me, inside the box is packed with things. The packing is just superb. Unlike that one is Age of Galaxy from the same designer and the same principle. Very, very cool. They've also sent me what else? Oh, a solo game called Elia, which is a super cute game about a rabbit that goes out there in adventures, and it's huge. Again, it's solo games tend to be kind of smaller. No, this one is huge. This one is the whole shebang, which is absolutely fantastic. And another game called Inheritors, and another one called Morpho, which is a science fiction game, and another one called Samurai Vassal. So they Samurai Vassal.
Oh, Samurai Vassal. Okay.
Yeah, which is so I'm going to be very busy. And then after that, the absolutely wonderful human beings from Free League, who is a company that I'm incredibly fond of because they still haven't made a mistake. There's been absolutely no errors in their judgment when publishing a game thus far. Every single game they've published is good. And they have sent me for review Heart of Darkness, which is the last of the 3 adventures they have received, well, in the trilogy, of course, for Alien, the role-playing game, which is a game I'm very fond of. It's a very good game.
All right. Yeah. I know that book. Yep.
They've sent me the Blade Runner starter set.
Lucky bugger.
And the Blade Runner core set, core rules as well,
right.
And the GM screen. So I am going to be very busy.
Really? Wow.
And all of those together with the games I brought from Essen. So literally this year, if I don't buy another game, I have enough to play a single game every single week until Spiel.
Wow. I have, we have about, not only do we have probably a dozen games that we bought that we haven't played yet. I have at least a half a dozen review games that I have to get onto. But it's been a tricky time trying to get people together. It's actually been harder to get people to play a board game in 2022 than it was in 2021, which I think was very weird.
And in my case, it's been all the opposite. Funnily enough, the other day I was making a recount, and right now I have a gaming group for board games on Mondays, which has become actually pretty regular. We're playing at least 3 times a month, which is amazing. Then I have 2 role-playing game groups, one on Thursdays and one on Fridays. And there is another, floating board game group on Sundays that I can join from time to time when I have some time. So right now, I have more gaming people than I have ever had, even when I was a member of a gaming club.
Well, aren't you Mr. Fancy Pants?
I am incredibly lucky. I feel genuinely very, very lucky. So I hope 2023 will continue with this fantastic strike of luck. So that's it. We should you and I make a list of all the games that we have to review and see if we can get some of the designers or some of the something for when we review them.
Well, unfortunately, 90% of mine are with Jamie Stegmeyer games, and we've already talked to him.
Well, but we can talk to the layout artist or the editors, the artists themselves, the publishers, the community managers.
Well, you got my message earlier that I think what you and I should do is do a top 100 games of all time, which I've been slowly pushing on you to do for the last year or so.
But 100, I find it overwhelming. Seriously, I find if you tell me top 5, yeah, I'm with you, no problemo. But
100 is like we could do like 5 a week, and that would carry us all the way until the summertime.
But I wouldn't know how to put 100 games in order. I seriously would not know how to do it. 5, I'm okay with. But what's my 100 game? I don't know. I know which one is my favorite game. I know what games I would take with me to a desert island for the rest of my life. But I don't know what would be the 100th game that I would like to play if I was given a choice of playing 100 games. Which one would be the game I would choose the 100th? I don't know.
Well, the thing is, those are all different lists for me, because if someone asked me if you had to take games on a desert island, what would you take? I would say, well, what's the games you want to play the most this year? I go, all the games I want to play the most this year are all the games I haven't played. The difference between me and my wife, because I'm always looking for the new experience. After I play a game 2 or 3 times, unless it's amazing, I want to get rid of it.
Okay.
She's the person that will play an okay game over and over. But for me, this is more like I have 300 games on my board game geek list, and I have scores for all of them. So I literally grabbed them all, threw them in, organized them by score, and then since I had so many of the same score, I moved them around until I had 100 titles. And the number 10 were exactly what the 10 I thought. Every year, this list can change a little bit. I'm probably going to add a few things. but not as many as I thought I would, just because I didn't play as many new games this last year as I was hoping.
But the thing with me is, and this is really embarrassing to admit, is that I have after Essen, I have well over 400 games at home.
Mhm.
I haven't played them all.
Well, I have 300. I haven't played them all either.
So I cannot rate them because I cannot give them a point scoring system thing because I haven't played them. What am I going to say about the game I haven't played? I like it. I wouldn't be able to say that. But I'll tell you what we can do. Okay, and this is an idea thrown to you, and you don't have to answer now because we are live. Well, we are not live, but you know what I mean. We're recording. How about, because I don't think no one has ever done this before, 3 top games that we would take somewhere. So we choose a number of things, to a desert island, to a plane ride, to a games convention, to a food convention, to a theme park, that we would take to those locations and why. We make a list of those locations and decide, okay, what 3 RPGs we would take here? What 3 RPGs we would take there? What 3 board games we would take here? What 3 board games we would take there?
Well, there's also a bunch of other lists of top 5. You can say top 5 sci-fi games, top 5 games with minis, top 5 games that everyone hates that you love, top 5 games that everyone loves but you hate. I mean, there's tons of things you can play with.
Yeah, exactly. But all of those have been done by the Dice Tower already. So
I know, but ours will be better.
Ours are going to be way better. Considerably better. So yeah, we'll think of something. So listeners, you can, and viewers, you can give us your ideas. What kind of lists would you like us to make?
One thing the Dice Tower did and did not do, and Rado did, which I actually really liked, was the top 10 game that where his score is widely different than the Board Game Geek score.
Right.
So he listed the games that had the greatest diversion. Doesn't matter up or down. It was the greatest diversion. And I thought that was a fantastic list because it basically showed and so one was the game that he had a completely differing opinion of compared to everybody else. And I thought that was a very interesting list. Dice Tower hasn't done it. Dorado did it once, and I thought it was a very interesting list.
Okay.
Because it mentions both good and bad titles. Titles like I did not like this much as the community, or I love this game a lot more than apparently the community does.
Okay, well, we can think of something and think about what we're going to do, of course, because that's just what I said before. People can send us their ideas, which would be very good to have. And then we can make the top whatever lists for 2023, which I think would be really, really good fun.
All right,
that microphone is arousing me so much.
Sorry. Once again, me being a fiddler, I just can't help but playing with things.
Yeah, but stop putting the condom on and off. And listeners, if you're listening to the podcast and not watching the video, you really need to watch the video now, because you're gonna love the shit. and I cannot think of any better ending for the podcast than this.
You okay?
Yeah, you're laughing a lot. Let me stop recording.
All right. Anyway, so this has been Chris from Deus Ex Machina. You the talk fully breaks down. You can find me on Twitch. No, I can't even Twitch. You can find me on Twitter, which I barely ever use. Facebook, YouTube, and as I promised, the last 8 videos I posted on my TikTok were Degu videos, but eventually some other videos will be posting. But my Degus are trending. They're very, very popular. So it's very hard to not want to post more Degu videos. But I will be posting some game stuff related stuff soon.
And soon you will start to get messages from companies that make Degu sort of things. Like, oh, would you like to promote our products for your Degus? You can see it.
I'm hoping. I'd love to get some of these companies. I've programmed my guys, by the way. Unfortunately, I have this thing on. I programmed them a little bit so they know the sound of the opening of the treat container.
And they go,
but I've also, yeah, but more so let's see if I can figure this out here. Let's see if I can do this here. No, that's where it is. Let's see here. Turn this here. Okay, so this is off.
Yes.
So my thing is right here.
Yes.
Right. And And I so far I can program them to come when I ask. I just do this. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Oh, that's super cute.
That's Gizmo. He's been Digit doesn't come as readily. And the funny thing is, it's because every time I do that rap, I give him a treat. So Gizmo's like, wait a sec, where's my treat? Screw off. I'm going back. You're not giving me a treat. It's not worth it. And then Digit eventually shows up. And now he expects his treat.
And they don't bite you for not giving a treat.
No.
Oh.
They nibble. If I give them a fingernail with a length on it, they'll nibble. But they're very unusual animals because they don't like being pet. So when I try to play with them, I'll sneak a pet by playing with their underneath their chin.
Oh, bless. Well, good. I look forward to seeing those videos. I need to take a look at them. So, listeners, viewers, thank you very much indeed for putting up with us, because I know that we are wonderful, but we still appreciate you being there. Twitter, GMS Magazine, as usual. Facebook, GMS Magazine, as usual. Email, which I know I'm very slow at replying, but I promise I will reply. And I'm saying this because I haven't replied to the wonderful Greg Favreau for so long, and I love you, dude, a lot. Hopefully we'll have you for the podcast as well at some point. And your games are amazing. Podcast at gmsmagazine.com. Send us an email. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you very soon. Bye.
Bye.